That was more so or less tied to the fact that he attacked Vince McMahon. That's why I made the reference to the Royals.
Oh yeah, I understand. But yeah, it's I don't know what we were talking about before, honestly.
I don't recall, but
oh yeah, Drew and Sheamus fight. That's what it was.
That's what it was. With Drew, I actually miss his old music.
Yeah, it's changed up a little bit too. I guess they're trying to evolve it a little more. I'm definitely a fan of what he's doing for a long time now. He's taken the ropes of Raw and really turned a lot of things around for him, at least for himself. It's hard to really. There's so much. If you look at the brand that they have, the product, and what they had years ago, you had your lead guys such as Austin and Taker and Rock, and then of course you had your below them. It's a lot different roster was, so it's like you have a lot more development in the roster. So it's like, but he's taking the lead at least for what he can, make it look good. So I give him props for that. That's what I was getting at. Same thing goes with Orton and the Fiend. They're doing good stuff.
Yeah, I'm actually interested in that storyline and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go back to this, but it's one of those that there's not many wrestling themes that I've really am a huge fan that I could kind of see listening to the song, not outside of like a wrestling scenario, but Drew's old one, Broken Dreams, I've always loved that song.
Yeah.
I remember using Creative Wrestler and creating my own guy, and he would use that song just because it was so good.
Yeah. I understand that. Absolutely.
There's another story I was going to mention. So we kind of touched on Goldberg being part of WrestleMania, and he actually, in the same interview where he talked about his relationship with Vince McMahon, he mentioned that the reason that the streak got as far as it did, was because of Mike Tenay and Bobby the Brain Heenan. So he credits them for the streak staying alive as much as it did.
Interesting. Figured I would have been a little more solvent going to take care of that, honestly. But it's good to see Tenay and Brain taking care of that one.
Yeah, they're very behind him. And thinking back, all the things that Bobby the Brain used to say about Goldberg, he super praised him back in the day as a commentator.
Yeah, it was some days there, man. I was surprised that they actually were the ones taking care of that streak, though.
I mean, it kind of makes sense.
Oh, that does. I just said kind of, but I figured I'd more been definitely more of a solvent, since Solvent took care of him, helped direct him.
I just realized you're saying Sullivan.
Yeah, Sullivan. Yeah, Kevin Sullivan.
Yeah, when you said it the first time, I thought you said solving, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. But I'm not gonna.
Oh, no.
I'm not gonna say.
Here's
the thing. When you said it the first time, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Why would that go there? When you kept repeating it, I'm like, oh, Kevin Sullivan. Now I follow. Now it makes sense.
Yes, Kevin Sullivan was the direction mastermind behind Goldberg and took care of his career for a while, and that's why I said I was surprised Kevin Sullivan wasn't the one behind keeping streak alive. But that's cool.
Yeah,
the Brain and Tenay took care of that too. Yeah, there's actually one thing that switching gears for a second. I was seeing the final resolution results, and before I seen the pay-per-view took place, there was a match, and a match stipulation, or at least the match stipulation, I should say, I was just mind-boggled with, was Dreamer versus Larry D. If Larry D lost, he was going to go to jail for attempted murder. I'm thinking to myself, what the hell booking is that? It's dumb. It's just you're making it to where sounds so phony. I get that Impact does corny stuff. That's something they do enough of.
They do it for corny.
It must do. But I just seen that. I'm like, what the hell? I mean, I wouldn't even care about that. To me, it just made zero sense. But I mean, I didn't see the match, but I'm thinking it was okay. But I had that stipulation. I just was like, okay, whatever y'all want to do. But it's more like a Russo call, I think.
As long as it's minimal on Impact with the whole goofy thing, it's fine. I like the fact that it's more variety, but
that's fine. Just more or less, basically, a person's fate to go to jail for attempted murders in a match. I just didn't see the whole point.
You know what it makes me think of?
Hmm.
It makes me think of all the times that it did make sense that Stone Cold would be the only wrestler that gets arrested for attacking somebody. Everyone else, they would just have to face in matches. Stone Cold hops in the thing, starts beating the crap out of Vince McMahon. He leaves in handcuffs. Another wrestler attacks another wrestler in back. You two are going to have a match tonight. Or now, like, let's keep it with Stone Cold. Stone Cold has been arrested on TV, WWE TV. I don't know how many times.
Oh God, I don't know how many times.
But part of the main punishment on SmackDown is you have to go 1-on-1 with the Undertaker.
That's the judge, the jury, and executioner. That was always the best.
You have a match later, play it 1-on-1 with the Undertaker.
Yeah, Teddy Long always was famous for that stuff. I loved when he did that. Oh yeah, that was always amazing. But Stone Cold attacked the boss, so it's a different story. But he attacked.
I just thought of something. What if Undertaker got in trouble? You're going 1-on-1 with the Kane.
Oh, it's too much, man. Oh, it's too much.
So, Matt Riddle. Okay, so you noticed recently where they're amping up the whole bro thing, right?
Oh yeah.
One, that's dumb. You're destroying the character. My opinion, like, yes, I get he says bro, and he's supposed to be this stoner character, whatever. It would be better if he used it in a context where he acted like he didn't care, but then when he gets in the ring, it's all complete opposite. Apparently, the only reason that it's constantly on TV like that is because Vince McMahon doesn't get it, but he thinks it's funny.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not either, but like, why ruin a character?
If he thinks it's funny, he's gonna go with it. I mean, I don't think it's terrible, but he just gets a little more than you would think.
It's like,
but it's where they're wanting to take him with this character. I mean, he was at one point he was more little, I wouldn't say serious, but he was a little more serious competitor as far as like he was taking more serious as far as matches, but now it's not as much seriousness.
It makes me think of Carlito from back in the mid to early 2000s, where he had the I spit in the face of people that don't want to be cool. That's fine, that works, but they over milked it to where it took away from Carlito. And I don't want that to happen with Matt Riddle.
Yeah, I understand.
And I like
by the
Carlito.
Way, I really thought about this. Something. Sorry to interrupt there. There's something I found out a couple days ago. So have you found out? Because we at one point you weren't sure about this. With the Street Profits say we want to smoke. Have you figured that out?
No.
So this young guy, friends with, work my other job with, he said that. I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, it means you want some, so they want some. Like John Cena's, you want some, come get some. That's their way of saying we want to smoke. We want some.
Huh.
Like, I didn't realize that till now, so I'm sure we have our listeners thinking, you just now figured it out? Yeah, we just did.
There's certain things that, like, when I find out about it, I'm like, man, I don't feel old until this comes about. A few years ago, someone called me Ratchet. I didn't know what the hell that meant. But it's because there's a voice I use in a mocking manner that sounds kind of, I guess, ghetto. So they said it was my Ratchet way of talking. I didn't know what it meant at the time, so I'm like, I guess apparently I made him super uncomfortable. I'm like, so what does that mean? And people are like, no, it's not a negative thing. I'm like, oh, okay, so I need you to tell me what that means because I don't know what you're talking about. And there's a couple of people around me that both knew what it meant in context. I had no idea. And this person, as they're trying to explain it, they're like, it's like you're ghetto, but not really like ghetto. You're like fake ghetto. And like they keep trying to explain it, and I go, so at what point am I not supposed to be offended by this? And the other guy on the other side, he goes, look, she's explaining it terribly. But yeah, it was a scenario where they kept on trying to describe the word to me, but they were using like terms that are supposed to be negative, but I wasn't supposed to take it negative. And this is an example of a phrase that, just like Ratchet, I'm like, I didn't know what it meant before. So
yeah.
But it is.
That's crazy. It's an interesting nickname for you. I actually was long years ago, 12, 13 years ago, I guess it was. A guy I used to work with, he's calling me Gomer. So I looked at him like, Gomer? It's like, yeah, I'm calling you Gomer. Like, okay, I gotta ask, why you call me Gomer for? Dude, do I have to explain? He's like, oh, and I know about Gomer Pyle from Mayberry. He's like, well, you have that personality. I'm like, I had no idea why he kept on calling.
The only person I know of Gomer Pyle, and it's actually from Full Metal Jacket, is when they kept calling the big guy Gomer Pyle. And I will never forget this. This is one of my favorites. Have you seen Full Metal Jacket?
No.
There's a scene. Oh, I gotta show you that movie next time you come down. There's a scene in the movie where they have to climb a obstacle course, and the drill instructor's on top. He goes, "Oh no, Gomer, don't fall down. That'll break my heart." It's definitely a movie you have to see. It's really, really good. It's one of my favorite military movies.
Interesting. But yeah,
it's by Stanley Kubrick.
Okay. Yeah, I still had time to figure out why he kept on calling me Gomer. I'm like, okay, I gotta ask. I called Boomhauer for a little while there too. I'm like, okay, what is Boomhauer? I never watched King of the Hill, right? Yeah, I never watched that. And they're like, you sound like Boomhauer. I'm like, I don't see the resemblance.
Right. I like King of the Hill, so I know what they're talking about. I don't necessarily see the resemblance, but I know what they're talking about with the character.
Yeah, but yeah, I didn't. I see you sound like a little bit like him. I'm like, okay, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, there's a few names I would say.
There was something I was going to ask you too. You remember? Well, not ask you, but how we talked about WWE scripts or promos. And this is related to the "We Want to Smoke" thing.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, that they have to, and Hurricane Helms of all people defended it, saying that they have to because some of the people are not as creative as they think. So, without they can't necessarily have free reign with bullet points because they wouldn't be able to pull it off. So sometimes scripted is needed. My thing is, if you have someone on the roster that can't completely do it, set them up with a manager. You guys are going to find someone that can cut a promo and maybe doesn't have the build to be a wrestler. I don't know, like Paul Heyman. But
well, if you're going to script the promo, have someone who has more of a wrestling mind to do it. It's like if you're going to have a soap opera writer, someone that came from soap operas, they might still be a fan of wrestling, but it's like and you make it come off so scripted. There's nothing real about it. Nothing.
Right.
There's nothing real about it whatsoever. It's like you're just talking to me just because reading off, off a script. I'm like, it just gets to where I can watch that off a movie. He's gonna say it, but he works there and whatnot. But I get the fact that
doesn't. He's gone.
Last time he went back.
I didn't know he went back.
I could be wrong, but last time I had heard he was off furlough or whatever, and they brought him back. Last time I knew it, like him and Kidman, they had brought back. But for those
he might be, but I thought he was just on AEW for the deletion.
Oh, well, maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong then. I just thought I'd seen Tim talk about that. I could be wrong, so everybody's thinking I'm wrong. But anyways, But I get the